Hi everyone. My name is Brianna Banks. I'm the Director of Digital Experience here at Truth Tree, and we are so excited to continue our summer digital marketing webinar series with you guys. Now, without further ado, I will turn things over to our first presenter, Chris Pryor, who serves as an Assistant Head of School for Advancement and External Affairs at Congressional School.
Well, thanks again for your time this afternoon. I'm delighted to share my LinkedIn journey with everyone and look forward to the questions at the end of our presentation. So I've been in independent schools for 20 years now. The first 15 was really focused on admission and enrollment management. And 6 years ago, I switched schools to join Congressional School in their office in development. And so there were two reasons that really brought me to LinkedIn. First, I had created all these wonderful contacts with colleagues and families over the years at my various schools, and I had never found a way to remain in touch with them going from one school to the next. So I really wanted to get to know our families at Congressional, and I thought that LinkedIn would provide a platform to do so. So I've been a user now for 6 years. And in addition to wanting to kind of remain in touch with colleagues, I also found it was going to be a great way for me to promote my own personal brand, to enhance our school's visibility, to continue to network with other development, advancement professionals, and to follow people where I could learn from them, not only from independent school, but also higher ed. And the facts, from LinkedIn prove out that it's a great social media platform for advancement professionals to be on. In fact, I check it daily. As we're looking to enroll, full pay families, as we're looking to find donors, as we're looking to share our message and our brand, you're hitting the right type of business leaders and community members that want to follow you. And in 2014, Congressional went through a marketing audit, and we figured out after 75 years that we were still a little gem within Falls Church. And so our team went about trying to figure out how can we broaden the relationships that we have within the community so that families and community members would know Congressional. We have a very prominent camp, and whenever I would talk to somebody, they say, "Oh, are you the school that has that great camp?" And that was kind of the reverse from how we wanted it. So we enhanced or redid our logo and our website, and all of those pieces of the marketing puzzle. And we really leaned into social media, but we didn't have the bandwidth to do LinkedIn. So I took that on as a personal challenge. And when I thought about what we wanted to share and how we wanted to partner, I kind of clumped it into 6 different categories that I routinely post about. And so I wanted to give you some concrete examples from my posting and how I think about leveraging LinkedIn to support Congressional School. So the first is community partnerships. And we knew that in order for Congressional to become a larger player in the Northern Virginia, DC market, that we needed to have more visibility. So we immediately partnered up with Arlington Magazine and started working with them, not only to advertise, but also to get original content into their publications. We sponsored their Best Of, which we were a winner of, which was great. And so that helped us gain visibility within Arlington, which was a market that we wanted to target for enrollment. In addition, with Amazon coming around, which we didn't know at the time, we knew that making connections within the business community was going to be important. So we started working with the Arlington Chamber. And in fact, this is our new head of school, Dr. Gordon, presenting on campus to their board of trustees. So we had 40 business leaders within the Arlington community come to campus, see our school, and then follow up afterwards to extend those relationships. So community partnerships has been a critical strategy of ours. And in fact, we've seen our enrollment double over the last 5 years from Arlington alone, in part because we've created these business partnerships, in part because we have a good product to sell, and because we have a Dynamo as our director of enrollment management. Uh, Service learning was also something that we really wanted to focus on and share with the community. As a school that creates great thinkers and great leaders, we knew that it wasn't just community service, but it was service learning. And we wanted to show that as a member of the community, that we were going to do our part and not just focus on our 40-acre campus, but be outwardly generous and connect. One of the opportunities that we really missed out on because of COVID this year was a relationship with Food for Others. We had started the planning. We were going to host a concert on campus where we brought in different schools from all over the region to participate. And even the Kennedy Center was going to partner with us and bring musicians to participate. And all the proceeds were going to benefit Food for Others. And we had been doing a lot of research in the academic curriculum around food and shortages, and so it was a perfect partnership whereby our students were learning and then able to extend their learning and to host an event. And we figured out other ways. When the hurricane ravaged, we started a Hurricane Helpers and worked with World Central Kitchen, and we partner with local public schools to bring students onto campus. So we're trying to find ways to show that we're an active member of the community, and that we're doing this because it's part of our mission, and building goodwill and brand recognition throughout. Another area that I think is really important, especially from the enrollment management side, is our faculty. We want to promote that we have excellence across the board, but certainly within the faculty, because they are the lifeblood of any school. And so when there are opportunities to promote teachers that are doing something really exceptional, like Denise Yassine when she presented at NIAS, or one of our new faculty members, Desmond McGlone, who's a math teacher who created his own YouTube channel so that he could help share how to kind of figure out those difficult math problems at home. We want to do that because we want to show not only our current parents and our prospective parents, our donors, that Congressional is hiring and retaining teachers of excellence, and we feel like that will be a draw, and finding ways for them also to partner with the community. So, for example, Denise focuses a lot on sustainability in her teaching in 5th and 6th grade, and so she went and presented at the Arlington Chamber, which again is extending how we're known in the community. Alumni Success is also an indicator of a successful institution. And so we try and feature stories, or I feature stories throughout where I'm highlighting alums that have graduated from years ago, like Ida Ramika, who came back for Founders Day, or more recently, we've had a tradition of recent grads coming back to deliver the commencement address, and that's been very successful, as well as our camp. Because we have such a successful camp, we have a number of campers that every year come back and work camp. Again, building on that idea that Congressional School is a family, that we are a community, that once you're a member of our community, you remain forever, and that we want to stay in touch and continue to be engaged. Now, special events I found sometimes to be a little tricky. When I preemptively post about these events, I don't get as much engagement as I would like. So I've kind of learned from posting and seeing what has worked. I typically try and find posts that are engaging in terms of the visual, but also try and tag as many members of whoever's been in that photo, or whichever organization is a part of it. We recently had to pivot, like many, to an online virtual gala. That actually got a pretty nice response. But my posts tend to be somewhere between 20 to 50 is where I kind of typically land. And I find that as good engagement. Oftentimes I'll sometimes get 6 or 7, and I'll kind of look at that post and see why it didn't perform as well as it otherwise could have. And of course, when we do get earned media or free media, I try and share those Again, just building that brand, letting people know that we're part of the community, that we want to partner with others, or that we have some thought leadership to share. These posts sometimes don't do as well as some of the others, but I still think they're important to put out into the space. And finally, there is a little self-promotion on LinkedIn. I try and use it sparingly. Typically around professional development that I'm doing to show that I'm continuing to try and enhance my craft and my knowledge base. Occasionally there might be an award that I want to share, or my favorite post recently is I've been the mascot at our school since joining in 2014. Everybody kind of knows it, but nobody really knows it for sure. And my daughter got to serve in an understudy role. So show a little bit of emotion, show a little personality. I found has been an effective engagement tool. There are plenty of school examples, and I really encourage you to take a look at what your peers are doing, what your colleagues are doing. The Lawrenceville School just did a great post about their athletic director. A former friend and colleague at Highland School posts about their alumni. Rebecca is an enrollment director in the Chicagoland area, just had a recent achievement that she shared. But there's great content out there, and I follow a lot of you all so that I can see what you're doing and seeing what's working and what engagement you're getting. I have not used the congressional school LinkedIn profile as much as my own personal profile. And one of the things that I noticed recently, I saw this quote, which made a lot of sense to me. And yes, we need to have a congressional school brand, and of course that's going to be promoting all the good things. But the more that you can get your own team and members within your community to share your content, I think that the better it is and the more reach it will have. So when I'm thinking about my personal audience, I think about our current parents, I think about our head of school and our board, hoping that they'll see my content and make it really easy for them to comment or to share. I think about the local businesses, donors that we have, or organizations that we want to partner with in the future as we continue our reach. So one of the exciting benefits of being kind of more active on LinkedIn for congressional is that I've certainly grown my network and continued my own personal development. But from a brand perspective and from a connection with other organization perspective, I found that I have more colleagues that are now posting on LinkedIn because they've seen me do it, they've seen others do it. Our head of school has gotten involved in LinkedIn, and so that engagement has been really helpful, I think, for sharing kind of who congressional is today, because it has certainly pivoted in the last 5-6 years, and will continue to do so as we lean into our new vision and mission and core values. And then, having others kind of post themselves and following them and then helping them share their content, I think has been really good. It makes for an easy post for me sometimes, but it's also great to see that others have seen the value in leveraging LinkedIn and using it to create a different channel for us to tell our story. So I would advise you, if you're not currently on LinkedIn, to jump in with both feet. Certainly look to enhance your school profile and your personal profile. Find some colleagues that are actively using it, or some schools that you really respect and think do a really good job in terms of their promotion, and follow them and monitor what they're doing. Think about who your audience is and what you want them to know. I mean, Matt's going to talk to you in a minute about his approach, which is totally different than my approach, and both are valid and meaningful and I think worthwhile. I think creating the content and figuring out what plays well for your audience is really important, and then developing a posting schedule. I was trying to post daily, and I found that it was too much for me. And when I posted daily, I was trying to force some of the posts rather than really thinking about what content would be best. So I tend to post now 3, maybe 4 times a week, and that feels like a comfortable rhythm for me, and it seems to have yielded the right results for us. So I would just encourage you to, to start posting, see what works, learn from others, and have some fun. I see this as a great outlet for me to be a little bit creative, to make connections, and all the while supporting a school that that I not only love but really benefit from, because my two children are enrolled. So I would welcome your questions at the end of the presentation, but at this time I'm going to turn it over to Matt Trammell at Bullis School to tell us about his approach to LinkedIn.
Thank you, Chris. All right. So I think we're up and ready to go here. Just a few, general thoughts as we build on, Chris's comment. So, really for me, LinkedIn, started out as a place for me to think about my own personal brand, but also my own personal learning. And I think there has been a tangential benefit to Bullis School. I arrived at Bullis 6 years ago. I was a public school, high school teacher, social studies, U.S. history, 10th, 11th graders. I was a varsity basketball coach, and I sort of thought my career would move in a public school leadership direction. And I had a friend who taught at Bullis, and he said, "Hey, you've got to check Bullis out. Bullis School." And I'm like, "That's a long drive from my house, 45 minutes to an hour away." And he said, "Well, you got to check it out." And so clearly I did. And I sort of fell in love with the school right away. And so I started out as an 8th grade social studies teacher. I moved into the role of assistant principal in our middle school for the next 3 years. And this past summer, about 12 months ago, almost to the day, moved into the director of admission role at Bullis. And so I really look at my LinkedIn journey as being reflective of, kind of my career development and my personal development process. And I think now on the admission side, there have been people who I've connected with and have DM'd me back and forth about, Bullis. And so that's been positive. But I really wanted to focus my time with you all. Establish your brand by adding value. So what does this mean for us as individuals in our personal growth, with an eye towards the truth that as we grow, our schools grow too? All right. So first, why do I create on LinkedIn? First, I really enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with LinkedIn and with posting. I really find that it's a user-friendly platform. I enjoy adding value to my peers. It is an incredible opportunity to grow your professional brand. Personally, I'm not on Facebook. I am not active on Instagram or Twitter. I follow, so to speak, but I don't really post at this point. And so LinkedIn is my outlet to document my own growth. And I use that word document on purpose. I think so much of the pressure we feel with social media is to have these perfect posts. And I just want to reiterate throughout my brief presentation today, documenting is really a new way to look at content creation, and specifically as you produce content for LinkedIn. It's not about perfection. It's just about the discipline of posting content with an eye towards adding value. And I do have to say, LinkedIn has helped me grow in my work as a director of admission, as a school leader. It's given me confidence. And I'll be honest, I also believe firmly that it has increased my professional standing. When I go to apply for my next job, hopefully there'll be an opportunity at Bullis down the road, but if it's somewhere else, I am not going to hand in a resume. I will link to my LinkedIn page, and I want that committee to truly get to know me. How will they get to know me? Check out my posts from the last couple of years, pick and choose, because my LinkedIn account is who I am aspirationally and who I am day to day. And so I really gain a lot of personal benefit, and I truly believe there is future benefit for my professional growth as well. Moving forward, LinkedIn has morphed a little bit. It kind of used to be a place to just grow your professional network. Now LinkedIn has moved into a content sharing platform. And for me, it really strikes this balance between mostly professional network type content while still being a place where, people expect you to put your own content, in your feed. So, other platforms may not fit for me in that sense. I will tell you, my own LinkedIn account, I do not post personal things. I don't post pictures of my family. Some people do, and that's great. I have chosen to really keep my LinkedIn profile and brand honed in on my professional experience and reflections. I will also share with you all, I don't know that this is right or wrong. I ignore requests for people who are not connected to the school leader industry. I make a few exceptions here and there if I know somebody, for example. And I also do not try to connect with people who are not in our industry. And so I really follow Seth Godin's model of a tribe. Connect with like-minded people. I'll talk about that in a slide or two. But I think when you get narrow and you're not afraid to say, hey, this is my outlet in my industry, and I want to connect with people and add value to people who are interested in consuming content that helps them grow as school leaders, I really find that to be a pretty fertile ground to keep your connections a bit narrow. Now, that would be a little different than if your approach is more like Chris, perhaps, with a focus on congressional. And, he's going to have parents and folks connected to the school across industry. For me, with my focus, I'm looking to add value to people who are in our business, so to speak. All right, so types and frequency. I like to post weekly a book spotlight. What I do is I read a book. I tend to read leadership and management and personal development books that are not linked to education. And I pull out 3 leadership principles from the book and then create application to our work as school leaders. And so I share a quick, it's probably a 3 to 5 minute read. I share that on Sundays typically. I've started over the last 6 weeks or so sharing a vlog. So I literally do a video where I talk about my school leaders book spotlight post. I'm not creating new content. I'm repurposing the content and sharing it in a different platform in a sense, right? So instead of the written word, now it's video communication. And I really enjoy that. And that's a way for me to create some additional content. A few times a week, I like to post an inspirational or reflective quote. I use Stencil. So it's STENCIL. I think it's like $5 a month, a subscription charge. And you can pull quotes and photographs from their massive database. And that's what I use to fuel those kind of posts. I really enjoy finding great articles where I can make connections to school leadership. And so I enjoy sharing those, maybe attaching a reflection or a pull-out quote to sort of give, my LinkedIn followers a hint at why I think this article could be relevant. And also, sometimes I just have moments of reflection. For better or worse, I'm a pretty reflective person. And I found that some of my best thoughts are in my head. And then if I don't journal them, they go away. So instead of creating a journal, I literally get my phone out in the notes section and I type them and then I post them. Or maybe I'll just get right onto LinkedIn and hit create post and share them. And so going back to the perfection, I don't feel like those have to be perfect. Quite honestly, there have been some of what I look back on, I think, wow, I think those are some of my most clear posts were just almost train of thought. Like I just let it kind of spill out. I did a spell check and then I hit post. I think the key for you is as a potential, documenter of your own leadership journey on LinkedIn, give yourself the freedom to post without seeking perfection and also without worrying what everybody will think about your post. I have to tell you, it's liberating, and it will help you gain confidence not only in yourself, but your ability to communicate and to do so without limiting beliefs. I think we all have that little voice in our head that says, I'm not really sure that idea is worthy of someone else's attention. Let them be the judge. If they scan through and don't, give you a response, a like or whatever, no problem. And I'll also say, just because you don't get a like doesn't mean someone did not read that and gain some inspiration or encouragement from it. So just be a documenter of your learning. And I really encourage you to consider that. I've talked about this. I really serve school leaders. And I'll be honest, I feel like I'm pivoting a little bit to really focusing on private and independent school leadership. I've been a public school teacher and school leader. The way that I'm really starting to grow in my career and where I see my future is in the independent school world and the private school world. And so I think a lot of the leadership lessons that I'm applying from my reading and content consumption is starting to really be driven towards a private and independent school context. So I won't read the quote to you, but Anna Quindlen with a quote about the importance of books. I love books. I love my Audible account, and I will tell you that the process of reading and sharing reflections is probably become my hobby. I just really enjoy it. I would encourage you all to post to learn. And, my posting schedule has created accountability for me. So I'll give you an example. This morning, this slide rang true for me. I was a little tired this morning. I was kind of, fatigued. And I literally had the thought of, I wonder what's going on in the economy. And so I said to myself, I think I'll just turn on Bloomberg radio on my way into work and just listen. And then I thought, whoa, today's Wednesday. I have to write my school leaders, book summary in 3 days. And I hadn't started a book for this week. So I stopped before I went out the door. I downloaded my next read on Audible, and I know that I have to get through it. So my PM car trip on my way home today is going to be dedicated to the next book, because I have committed to myself and to my LinkedIn connections that I will produce content on Sunday. And so I need to read the book. I need to think about it and be ready to post. I really just want to encourage everybody, people talk about, monetizing or worrying about followers. I would just encourage you, view LinkedIn as a chance to add value to your peers. Just post something that could help someone. And when you do that, when that's the heart behind your LinkedIn journey, so to speak, your personal brand and your connections will increase as well. There was a great book that I read a few weeks ago, Bob Burg's book, The Go-Giver. It is outstanding. And the entire focus of that book, and he had some spin-off books as well, but that book talks about the fastest way to grow your own influence is just to add value to other people with seeking nothing in return. I think it was maybe Zig Ziglar or Jim Rohn. Someone said, the quickest way to grow your own career or get whatever you want in life is to help other people get what they want. And so the more value you add, the better it will be for you. And be authentic in that. Just be here to serve someone else as you document your own journey. The last thing I would say is create a schedule that makes sense for you. Chris talked about 3 to 4 days a week. I have found something pretty similar. Sometimes I post a little more. I think a lot of weeks I'm right there at probably 4 days a week. Put it on your calendar. There's the old management adage that if it's not on our calendar, we don't get it done. So put it on your calendar and then have fun with it. Perfection is not the goal. Enjoy the process. And I hope to see you on LinkedIn soon if I'm not already engaging with you there. So those really conclude my comments. If there's questions at the end, look forward to that. But thank you for a chance to share a little bit today. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Trevor.
Thanks. I think one of the great things about having such professional people collaborate in this way is, while he was asking about that, I downloaded The Go-Giver on my Audible. I have a 3-hour drive coming up in a little while, and so that'll keep me occupied for most of it. I want to thank everybody for being here once again. Thanks to Matt and to Chris for sharing what they have. And I am going to share a little bit myself. And hopefully everybody can see the screen. And if you can't, let me move some stuff out of the way, move this up here, get my notes going. And I hope everybody can see the screen. And if you can't, somebody can just yell at me right now. So Matt and Chris talked a lot about what you can do organically for you and for your school on LinkedIn. I'm going to make you spend a little bit of money if that's something that you want to do on the space. And I'll say this, LinkedIn advertising on LinkedIn, it is niche. It is not for every school. It can be expensive. It is hard to target parents or just parents. And just like with Facebook, for the most part, people do not come to LinkedIn saying, I really hope I find a school as I'm scrolling through my LinkedIn. But if you look at it from the standpoint of making your school a better organization in your community, which I think Matt and Chris do masterfully, LinkedIn can absolutely be a very effective platform. So I'm going to say that again. If you look at it from the standpoint of making your school a better organization in your community, LinkedIn can absolutely be a very effective platform. Now, my guess is, and you can put it in the chat, although I can't see the chat, but I'm going to take your word for it. So put it in the chat, yes. Put the 3 letters YES in the chat. If you want more full pay families at your school that are financially sound. Oh, there we go. Now it's popped up. Yes, 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 yes. Any no's? Be honest. Any no's to that question? Didn't think so. Okay, good. So, with that, LinkedIn, as you can see from this slide, absolutely, is where affluent professionals spend their time, where they collect information, where they share with others. So you are in luck if that's the kind of people that you want seeing your ads, whether they are on LinkedIn or another platform. So what I want to just talk about real quick, because I'm going to go into a demo in just a few minutes, and Chris and Matt have given me some extra time to go through it. But if you're thinking of using it, here's the I would nots, and then we'll get to the I would. So I would not use it to promote open houses or other admission events in a vacuum. You really want to build value first before making an action-based ask. Next, of all platforms, people on LinkedIn, they can absolutely smell a sales pitch. And you've likely seen someone rant about accepting a connection and immediately getting hit by a thinly veiled sales pitch. They hate being sold to on the platform. So I wouldn't have any direct, sales, spots open, things like that. Finally, do not set it and forget it. For most campaigns, and Nancy had asked the question, is it pointless with the significant higher cost? And I'll address that as we go through, Nancy. But to that end, it can be I've seen between $4 and $27 per click. So if you are going to really make it action-based where you want to get those clicks, I would really make sure that there's a good ROI behind that. Now, when we jump into the demo, I'm going to show you a specific strategy that has been effective for us at TruthTree and using it on behalf of schools. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But let's go to the do's. So I would, however, use it to promote people and your organizations and programs. So Matt and Chris, they do organization and themselves on there. And it's, I would say boost that if it's something that really seems viable for your school. To that matter, I'm looking for engagements. I'm not looking for action or people to come to the school or say I'm interested in the school. That's absolutely great. Really, what I would love to see beyond the likes are the newish, it's not that new, the new emoticons, the celebrate, love, insight, curious. That's kind of what I want to see with those. So lastly, spend some time if you are interested in advertising on it. And again, I'm going to show you what we did. Actually, we did a mock-up for Chris Pryor and his the design lab at Congressional School. But spend some time scrolling through. You'll see the little promoted at the top. You can also see them on the side of LinkedIn. Take a look at them. And then really think, why am I seeing this? Why is this intended for me? What intended action do they want me to take? Do I feel compelled to actually take that action? And if I do or don't, why or why not? All right, so would everybody like to, we're gonna jump into a quick demo where I'm gonna show you how I created an ad and really the whys behind it. So a little behind the scenes action right now where, gotta bring up my other screen, pop it over here. And I'm hoping everyone can see my screen still, where we have LinkedIn. Everybody see my LinkedIn screen? Somebody just type Trevor. Just type Trevor if you can see it. Or give me a thumbs up. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. So one of the great things that it just popped up maybe a few weeks ago, or maybe I hadn't noticed it, was now you have an additional button on your page, the advertise button right here. Now, if I were to click on this button, it would immediately take you to the accounts that we handle for our school partners and also ours. So I'm going to kind of skip what that looks like. But once you get into here, it's a lot like Facebook in how it is laid out and how you can choose what you want to do. So the first thing, once you've created a campaign manager account, which you would do right up here, it pops you into here. This is probably very familiar to a lot of people that do advertising on really on Google or Facebook. And what I would suggest for schools is brand awareness, website visits, engagement too, but again, it's expensive. Video views is fine. Schools can use it for lead generation, but again, I mean, people are not coming to LinkedIn specifically looking for a school. So once you've chosen which one of these you want to do, and for the example I'm going to use for a congressional school, I chose website visit. So what it does first, and I'm going to kind of backtrack just a little bit. The first thing, once you've chosen what you want to do, and you can see right here, I've chosen website visit. First thing is it's going to ask you to set up your audience. Now, I've already set up an audience for Chris. Now, I spent a little bit of time. Chris and I live relatively near each other, so I'm familiar with his area. So for this, I've called it area companies, because what I'd like to do with this ad is target one specific company. But for the sake of this demo, I've chosen a few. So I asked Chris, what are some of the companies, the larger companies that are in your specific area right around your school? And he told me, and I'll show you in just a second, but when you're choosing your audience, their location, the geography, you can do it by city, you can do it by county, you can do it by town. So I can choose Alexandria, Virginia. You can see that right here. I can choose Fairfax County. You got to be careful sometimes. It is a little wonky. So if I type in Washington, D, and I start the DC, or I type in DC, Washington, D.C., Baltimore area will pop up, but not, you have to kind of back out to just do the District of Columbia. It doesn't take zip codes, so you do actually have to know the names of the towns. So I will say that it does take a bit more time in really kind of laying out who your audience is when you're going through this. So you can also exclude some locations within the area that you're specifically targeting. So when I come down here to audience targeting, what I have chosen, first and foremost, is I've chosen these companies here because Chris indicated that these were near where a congressional school is located. And what I've also done is with some of the attributes is job seniority. So, hey, it's great that they work at Nestle or Northrop Grumman, Capital One, Innova Health. But, you know, I don't know that people in training or at entry-level positions would be in a position to send their child to an independent school. Certainly, if you just want general brand awareness at these companies, target the whole company, forget about, you know, age range down here or job experience, things like that. But what you'll see as you go through, so if I take out directors, you'll see that my list has gone down. So for each time, so you need a minimum of 1,000. For you, it'll populate a little bit before that, but you need a minimum of 1,000 for it to be worth LinkedIn's time to actually show your ad. Now, because it's a school, I did a little bit more filtering. I filtered out the 18 to 24 crowd. it's a K to 8 school, or excuse me, it's an infant to grade 8 school. So 55 and over might be a little old, but you know, if I exclude that, how many am I losing? 600. It might be worth it in there for you to do, and this is kind of up to you. Now, when it comes time, let me backtrack for just a sec. So you can do all of these by, and I'll just dump this out just for the sake of the what we're doing here. So you can choose based on a number of things. You can do it by company category. You can do it by company connection. You can do it by company name, which we've done, or company size. You can do demographics. So you can choose by gender. You can choose by age. You can choose by education. So again, a lot of it is similar to what you can do in Facebook. But the one thing that I will say, if you're trying to just reach parents, and this is where it's going to take a little bit of time, the only way that we have found to do it is through member groups. So if you blinked, I'm down here under interests and traits, member groups, and then there's a few things you can plug in. You can type in the word parent. Now you really have to be careful because some of these may target parent groups that of parents that you would not be able to serve their child. So there are some for students with dyslexia, with autism, things like that are on here that may not be viable for your school. So I might want to just do parent education. And then there's some boxes that pop up. Center for Parent Education, Early Childhood Professional Group. You might want to target some of them that are a part of this. And as you build it up, you can see over here, it says, oops, your audience is too small. Now, one of the things to also keep in mind, don't just kind of randomly check everything because I don't know the exact number, but once you get up to a certain number of filters here, it says, sorry, you've done too many. So let me just back out of these, but this is a way that you can do that. Parenting 2.0, parent bloggers. But again, be careful because some of these are specific to areas that are outside of your reach. Obviously, you might not target them because you're targeting these companies that are located in these places. But again, even things like this are never 100% foolproof. So from there, once I've chosen my audience, so let's just say I want to target all the people that work at Northrop Grumman because, heck, even if they don't have kids, I want to be able to just get some brand awareness at that company. So I mean, I may even expand to different counties. Chris could say, well, there's a lot of people that work there that are in Montgomery County, Maryland, or other counties or towns. So I can certainly add some of those in here. It also gives you over here the percentage of what those people, their function breakdown, and you can look at years of experience and all sorts of things. So if this is who I want to target here, you can, just like with Facebook, choose the different kinds of videos, or excuse me, ad format. You can do single image, carousel video, text ad, spotlight, and so on. So for this, I've just chosen a simple image ad. One thing I do like to do is click off the Enable LinkedIn Audience Network. You know, it's less than LinkedIn. I don't want it to show there. I also want it to show in the main feed. Then what you can do is you can set a daily budget, total budget. You can set the days it's going to run for. You can set the bid type, and you can also do conversion tracking as well, which is great because especially if you're going to be spending that kind of money per click, you really want to make sure that you're able to, if there is an ROI involved, be able to see what the return is that you're going to get. So again, I just wanted to get the attention of the people at Northrop Grumman. Hopefully a lot of them, some of them have kids. And this is the ad that I created for that because it's hopefully really going to grab their attention. It's focused on a small group. So up here I have, how well did elementary and middle school prepare you to succeed at Northrop Grumman? That's where I work. That's going to catch my attention if I see that in my feed. I've also mentioned them down here that maybe possibly these are future Northrop Grumman game changers. So obviously if they have kids and I'm successful, I would love for my kids maybe work at Northrop Grumman someday, but certainly be as successful as, you know, presumably I am. So the other thing you'll notice here is that it's got some information about Congressional School here, about the design labs that they have. Now, specifically, if there was some a video or anything that might link them to Northrop Grumman. You know, maybe in one design lab they you know, made model planes, or you know, super duper aerodynamic paper airplanes, something like that. So that's something you might want to put a picture of in here. You can manipulate the picture. I can go down here. I can change all this. Go to next. Although if you've been on with me before, I have spent $200 on a fake ad. So I'm trying to be really careful and cautious about how that happens. But you can pop a different photo in here. Obviously, you can change the headline, the description, the call to action, subscribe, register, whatever it happens to be, the introductory text. And this is just a place for you to name it. Obviously, you can preview it. I think I had brought it up here before. Let's see. I'm just popping in the same ad, or the same photo that I had in here earlier. And then this is the ad, obviously, out here. Now, it's very benign. There's no super call to action. There's no 50% off tuition if you act before July 1st. You know, there's not a lot of hokiness to it where there's something kind of kooky in here. I did put some emojis in here. That's not going to be for every school, and that's totally fine. That didn't cost you anything, Chris, that this just popped over there. It didn't cost me anything, I hope, too. But it would take them certainly over to the Design Labs page. And what my hope is that enough people will see this enough times, this ad, in their feed, that to them at Northrop Grumman, that if they do have kids, they have to consider, and I'm using the word have to, they have to consider congressional school for their child because there's such familiarity with the brand in here. So with that, my part of the presentation is done, and well, we've got 9 minutes left. So what I'd love to do is open it up to questions. Let me first figure out what I need to do. Let me stop sharing here. And if you want to put your questions in the chat, you can definitely go for that. So first, we'll start off with Troy's question. Do you see a lot of engagement on your LinkedIn posts? And based on the timestamp, I'm going to guess that this was for Chris. So Chris, and I don't know if you can see these, but do you see a lot of engagement on your LinkedIn posts, or how do you measure the effectiveness of the posts on your constituency groups?
So I would say when I first started posting, I would see more limited engagement. And I think once I started categorizing it into those 6 kind of subgroups and really thinking about which audience I was trying to message to, the engagement increased. So like I said, I think earlier, you know, if I'm getting 20, 25, 30 likes or some type of engagement, I'm really looking for the comments ideally, because that extends it a little bit better, and even better yet, some shares. So again, I'm trying to create some content that a board member or a current parent or a head of school would be willing to just, you know, share and write a little note. I think at the top end, I've probably been around 55 or 60. I haven't had any posts that go too crazy, again, because it's very targeted. It's all around congressional school and what we're doing. So I you know, it's not like Matt, where maybe he's putting something out there that really will resonate with the thought leaders in independent schools, and it'll be shed more broadly. Mine's going to be more kind of immediate to this area and this location. And I take that as good enough. I've seen my engagement grow over the time that I've used LinkedIn, and so it has encouraged me to continue to post because I feel like it's making an impact. And then I also hear from others saying, "Hey, I saw that LinkedIn post that you did," or "Hey, you know, that's pretty cool content," or somebody who you respect talks to you about a LinkedIn webinar that maybe you could help out with. So I think that's where I've kind of gauged my effectiveness with the posts.
Okay. And either one of you guys can take this next one from MJ. Best practices regarding posting as your school versus posting as yourself and mentioning tagging your school.
Yeah, Chris, do you want to take that one? That may be a little more.
Yeah, I've chosen to really use my own personal profile to do so. There are a lot of schools that post through their corporate profile. Highland School does a good job. Lawrenceville, who I referenced earlier. There are many others. What I like about that is the ability to cross promote. So, the school account posts, and then you as the director of development or admission shares that post. That's something that we'd like to get to. It's just prioritizing, and I think we'll get there someday soon. Again, there are a lot of schools that do that and do that well. So I just personally choose to post on my own private profile, but we'd like to grow our corporate profile as well.
Great. Let's see. Nancy asks, do you think ads on there would be pointless because of the significantly higher cost? Yeah, I mean, that's really, Nancy, why at the beginning I said it's not for everybody. It's not for every school. If you are looking for enrollment, to up your enrollment, it is an expensive thing to do. I think it's a great way to bring brand awareness. I think the level of professionalism that is LinkedIn, some of LinkedIn's brand, frankly, is going to rub off on you, that you're posting here and you're not posting, on the back of some smarmy magazine. You're getting the same amount of eyes. They all may not be the ideal eyes for your school, but they're eyes all the same. But obviously, this is a much more professional site. So, when you're doing this, it's not always about targeting parents. You can target parents. It is hard, but I think it's really just about showing up where schools right now, for the most part, I've seen higher ed to a much higher degree, and they're not targeting me necessarily or really at all, because I don't have almost college ready students. But I do see higher ed on here, both organically, all over the place organically, but certainly doing paid ads as well. On my screen right now, I've got one for Baylor and one for, I don't know what that F is, but a 12-month online program. So good question. Another one came in privately, so I won't say your name. Maybe this person just targeted me as opposed to generally, but when targeting a specific company, would they have objections to a school naming them specifically in a post when there is no formal relationship between the school and the company? That's a good question. Now, some companies that do have trademark rights on these platforms like Google and Facebook, it's really the higher end ones. They will on other networks. So for example, on Google, you can't create an ad that says that we're the #1 Facebook marketing firm, in the country, because it's Facebook is trademarked and it won't get through their checking process. But for something like this, where you really do want to do that, you can target them by name. It will definitely get their attention. I mean, certainly the other thing you can do is look at what those industries are doing. If it's a pharmaceutical industry, which I know there's pharmaceutical companies in and around where Congressional School is, are there things that are happening at the school that would appeal and resonate with someone who works in pharmaceuticals that says, wow, they're doing that at that school. That's so important right now because it's similar to the work that we're doing here. If I have children, I would definitely consider this school because of its importance. So, for something like this, I would want to maybe mirror what they're doing without necessarily calling out the school specifically. If you didn't want to do that, but we haven't run into any problems yet, specifically doing this. I don't know that we've gone to the lengths of using the name as much as I didn't here, just to kind of prove a point, but you get the idea. Are there other questions? If you do have questions, you can put those in the chat. And if somebody's feverishly typing, we'll wait a couple seconds. As we wait for those questions to come through, if they do, Matt, Chris, do either of you have any final comments you'd like to make?
I'll add just a quick thought. I mean, I think, as we talk about LinkedIn, from the vision I see it personally, and then even just kind of observing Chris's presentation, I think there is a patience that needs to be deployed with the LinkedIn approach. I think a slow drip campaign model where you're just, it's really a lot about brand awareness at first. And then, I think once that baseline is established, it could be fun to then sort of wade into the waters a little bit with a strategy like Trevor introduced. And, to me, and at least at our school, as we're starting to think about, really moving our marketing dollars, almost exclusively into the digital world, I'm excited to do a $200 or $250 test run and just see, for us, Marriott is just down the road from us. And so, it's a tough time perhaps for a lot of their executives, but it won't always be, right? So, I would love to see what $200 could get us as it relates to directing people, to our website and things like that. So, for me, I'm looking at Bullis and, thinking how I'll continue my own personal LinkedIn journey, but, how can we implement some of these things to slowly impact how people perceive our school, and also perhaps, to really, get the attention of executives who live in our area, most likely. I think that was a really interesting addition. So, my takeaway today is just, a perhaps more well-rounded approach to LinkedIn and how it could, build Bullis.
Great. Chris?
Yeah, my final thought is just you need to be authentic in who you are. I think Matt does that really well. In fact, I didn't even know Matt really before I started following him on LinkedIn and kind of understanding what he thought about and prioritized. And then this whole conversation came up. So that was actually how I got to know Matt, was initially through LinkedIn before kind of having a conversation with him. So I think, figure out what feels right for you and try it out and play with it and then kind of revise. But it took a while to kind of figure out my voice and that I wanted to kind of promote Congressional. Now, having said that, if I left Congressional, went to a new school, I suspect my strategy would be the same. So if I were over at Bullis, my post would be kind of around Bullis, because that's kind of where I focus my efforts. So I would just say, be authentic and a bit fearless too. So.
Thanks, Chris. I'll let my final thought just be an answer to Nancy's question, which is if you are targeting one company, will the ad fail because the number of people it will hit is too small? Nancy, so you need a minimum of 1,000. So if it's one company and you target the entire world, but the company is literally just in a specific area and doesn't have 1,000 people on LinkedIn, then yes, it will not. So with specifically to Northrop Grumman, there are 3,300 plus, it says, people on LinkedIn that use the platform. So in that case, you would. But for smaller businesses, again, this is what I kind of go back to. It might not be right for you if you're in an area where there aren't any large companies or corporations that obviously have a lot of people working there. You're not going to be able to take advantage of that piece specifically right there. One campaign we did for one of our schools, which was, when I say surrounded, I mean not literally surrounded, but there were 5 hospitals within, I think, like 7 or 8 square miles of the school, which was pretty unique. So we absolutely targeted those hospitals and the employees there, more for recruiting than for just general awareness that it was a great option, especially for hardworking healthcare professionals, and it did work well for the school. So Matt and Chris, I want to thank you guys again one more time. I know that you guys have a lot going on, especially with what's been going on. So to take time out to kind of prepare these presentations to share with everyone, and then obviously all the great stuff that you guys do online, or specifically on LinkedIn, has been great. So I want to thank Matt and Chris again. I want to thank Brianna for kicking things off. Candace, thank you. Oh, good. Super motivated. Like to hear that. If you'd like to see this again, if you're you wake up in an hour and you're like, I just missed it. We did record it, and we'll be putting a little something together. We'll send that out via email. We'll put it on TruthTree a little bit later on. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy your morning, day, night, wherever you happen to be. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will talk to you again in the future. Take care, everybody.